Good afternoon and welcome to Nashville Cable's April virtual Zoom program. Nashville Cable is the premier leadership organization for women's professional advancement. My name is Veronica Marable Johnson, Vice President of Member Value for the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce and this year's Cable President and Board Chair. As we adjust to our new remote everyday normal post-coronavirus, we are thrilled to offer our April program in a virtual Zoom format. Anna-Vija McClain, founder and CEO of Piccolo Marketing and longtime worker from home, is an accomplished entrepreneur, speaker, and sought-after expert. After years of working in a traditional corporate environment, Anna-Vija launched her first business, Piccolo Marketing, in 2014 in an effort to achieve greater freedom and fulfillment while doing what she loves. Please join me in welcoming Anna-Vija McClain as she shares insight on being productive as you work remotely from home. Anna-Vija?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for that. Welcome, Veronica. Just a couple of housekeeping items for the webinar today. First of all, thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody, for being on. We are going to keep everybody on mute for the duration here. And then if you have any questions or you want to introduce yourself or make any comments, this is, as she said, our first virtual kind of meeting. And so we're kind of learning as we go, just to keep everything clean and organized and quiet so everyone can hear and understand. We're going to keep everybody on mute, but feel free to use the chat. So in addition to Veronica as my co-host today, we also have Jessica Goff. Jessica is the operations manager for my company, Piccolo Marketing, and she's going to be helping with facilitation of the Zoom meeting today, including letting people into the meeting as they come up, as well as monitoring the chat for your questions. And she'll also be sharing some links on my behalf while I'm talking. So if you guys are looking for resources or have questions, please use the chat, and that way Jessica can monitor it and serve me certain information, and I won't get distracted while I'm giving you all the presentation. So we'll have a Q&A at the end, and then I'll turn it back over to Veronica. And then we also have some really great resources that we're going to be emailing out to everyone who attended today. And yeah, so thank you again for being here. I did a work from home webinar about 2 weeks ago, and I had Veronica saw that I was doing it and asked me to join you all. And I think it's a really, as she mentioned, it's very topical and timely right now. And we are one of the few companies that was blessed to already have a work from home environment. And it just occurred to me, I'm going to stop sharing that so you guys can see me a little better and I can see you. There we go. Is that better? Yes. Thank you, Karen Williams. She's like, yes, thank you. I see you. If you guys want to turn on your video, I would be happy to see your lovely faces. So anyway, what we're looking to do today is share with you, there you are, is to share with you some practical tips for how to work from home or work remotely effectively. Now, you're probably going to hear me say work from home a little bit more than you'll hear me say remotely, because we're not supposed to be out in coffee shops and other places right now. You're supposed to be seated at home. As Veronica said, she's been in the same seat in her office today since 7:30 a.m. So get up, take a walk. So let's talk about some of the basics about working from home. When I did the webinar a couple weeks ago, I did some research on what was already out there about working from home. And some of the first things that came up were related to like how to dress nice from our waist up so that we look good on camera, you know, how to set an office space. So make sure that you have a dedicated desk where all your stuff can go. You know, some basics like that, how to minimize distractions, find a place where you can shut the door from the pets and the kids and things like that. And all of those things are very helpful. And so I don't want to discount them. But at the same time, right now, what we're experiencing is a lot of grace around working from home. Everybody has been thrust into this unexpectedly. And I think people are a little bit more gracious right now about, you know, does your camera and your lighting look good? You know, is there a dog in the background? We've joked at Piccolo, we've met more of our clients' kids and dogs in the past 3 weeks than we even knew they had. So, there's some grace here. And so as we start today, one of the things I am a big proponent of is mental health and, taking care of yourself to take care of others. So, let's just take a moment to be grateful for, all we have, and to say, let's give ourselves grace in this moment. It's okay if we're just figuring this out and if it's not perfect, right? That being said, and I need to just pull up my notes really quickly because I want to make sure that I've got those over here on the side for myself. So the things that I want to share with you today are going to be a little bit more tactical. So I want things that you're able to implement fairly quickly. So the first thing that I want to talk about is setting a schedule. And I'm not sure, I can't see everybody on the call right now. I can already recognize a few faces that I know. I am a very organized person, and I know that that does not come naturally to every person. So I want to give you some steps on setting a schedule that actually works for working from home long term. And I like to equate this to sort of like when you decide that you're going to get healthy and you're going to go on a diet and you're going to start working out. If you go from not having done that for a very long time to, oh, I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. every day and I'm going to work out for an hour and then I'm going to like drink a gross protein shake and no, you are not. No, you're not. You are going to hope to do those things, and maybe you even do them for a few days or maybe a week or two, but extreme lifestyle changes they're not what's the long word, they're not successful in the long term if they have no roots and no transition. So it's the same thing with working from home. If you decide you're going to work from home and like, hey, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. and just get it done and go, that might work for a little bit, but the likelihood is that you're going to fall out of that routine, and then you're going to be mad at yourself for not keeping your promises or your commitments to yourself. And so you might be setting yourself up for failure. So here are a couple of ways that you can set a schedule that's realistic and that you could sustain over time. So the first thing is know your rhythms. So I am not an early riser. I'm just not. Like if I get up at, 7:30, I am not bounding out of bed and running it upstairs to my office and like, can't wait to sharpen a pencil. That's not who I am. I can get out of bed, but I'm going to slow wake up. I'm going to, get some breakfast and, read a little online and do my hair. And then I'm going to, get into work mode. I also know that somewhere around the late afternoon, I kind of have a dip in energy and focus the way a lot of people do. And so doing really like minutia level tasks like developing budget spreadsheets at 3 p.m., not a good move for me because I'm not going to be focused and I'm going to have to force myself to do those things. I also know that I get another wind or burst of energy after dinner. So I'll usually get in another hour or two of productive time after dinner. And so instead of scheduling myself according to what society says I need to do, which is get up at 6 a.m. and be productive right away and pound it out for 12 hours and hustle and grind, instead, I get up and I do what I need to do and I have time blocks. So in the mornings, I have in about an hour and a half that I just block out on my calendar that is time for me and for life. Now, I understand there's probably a lot of women on the call that have children, have pets, have other commitments, have spouses, things like that. Make this whatever you need it to be. I don't have children. I do have pets, but make it what you need it to be. For me, that's how it matches my schedule and rhythm. And I know that it's okay to take that time because I've blocked it off for myself, right? Then I know that I am very full of energy in these morning hours. It's 11:30. I usually have a lot of energy and I'm very talkative. And so what we do is we offer all of my external meetings. So calls or video chats that I would need to have with clients, with strategic partners, with prospective people, client sales and prospecting, all of those things I do usually between about 8:30 or 9 and 2 p.m. because I know that's when I'm going to have my most energy and I'm going to be full of ideas and I'm going to want to be, multitasking and talking to people. So we have time slots to do that. What I don't say is, hey, when do you want to meet? and then just wait for them to fill in the blank, because inevitably they're going to say they want to talk to me in the middle of my time that I've set aside for myself, or maybe the time that I've set aside for administrative work or for talking to my team. So in the afternoons, when I'm not really good at details, is usually when I set aside to talk to my team, because it's not as detail driven. And I can say, hey team, I'm available to you between 3 and 5 or 2:30 and 5 or whatever those time frames are. And so I know all of my internal calls to shore up internal stuff will be done during that time. So I'm still engaged in conversation, but I'm not necessarily, having to work out a bunch of tiny details. I am also a big proponent. This is another, like I've just mentioned, another sort of tip or trick here is when you've time blocked your schedule, protect your time. Now, if something comes up and you absolutely have to deal with it, that's fine, but don't just delete that time block. See if you can move it around. So that's the benefit of having a digital calendar. If you end up having to take a couple of calls in the morning during your me time, see if you can move that me time down to the afternoon after lunch and protect it. We have to take care of ourselves or put on our own oxygen masks before we take care of others. And right now, as we're talking about giving ourselves grace, I think there's a lot to be said around protecting your own time. Be direct with people when you can be. So you don't want to be rude if some prospective client is calling you and they say the only time I'm available is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's fine. I'll talk to you. But what I try to do instead is be direct about my time blocks before I just open the gate for everybody to control my schedule. So try to protect your schedule rather than giving the other person the ownership or the free reign to just say, well, I'm free at this time. I'm available at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock on these days. It's during the time block I've already set aside for outside calls, and it gives them options, right? Rather than them just picking something out of the sky that might not match with my calendar. So feel free to be direct right now. Everybody's learning how to manage themselves in their own new environment. If you're able to say, this is what I have available, most of the time people will go with that pretty easily. And then the last thing that I want to say around setting a schedule is there's a lot of opportunity to cut out some of this administrative time. So I want to give you a couple of, again, tactical recommendations for software to use that will help you cut back on having to do some of this admin yourself. Because when you're already overwhelmed and you're working from home and you've got all these new challenges and, again, kids and distractions and, reminding somebody that you have a video meeting coming up 3 times before it happens is not something people want to, you don't want to take the time to do that. You probably are already overwhelmed with emails from COVID updates from everything you've ever had an account for. If you're like me, all of a sudden I had 300 emails from like accounts that I forgot that I even had. I signed up for 4 years ago, letting me know their COVID update. So let's minimize some of that. One of the things that I highly recommend is HubSpot. And it's a sales software within HubSpot. So they have different modules in HubSpot, some for marketing and that kind of thing. The sales module of HubSpot is free to use. It is a CRM or a client relationship management tool. And it not only allows you to put all of your contact information in there, but it also integrates with both Gmail and Outlook. So it's amazing for just automatically tracking the emails that you're sending and automatically adding contacts into your system for you if you integrate it with your email. And the best part about the administrative sort of cleanup is that it allows you to have a meeting link. So you can set up a link, I'm sure you guys have seen this before. There are other things like Calendly that do something similar. The reason I like the HubSpot one is because it puts them into a master CRM for you where you can set reminders to follow up with people and things like that. But when you send them the calendar link and they select a day and time that's integrated with your calendar, so you can set what times you're available based on your calendar blocks. It will also allow you to send automated email reminders, and you can set how often you want those to be. So maybe you want to remind them a week before or an hour before, whatever it might be, and you can ask them for their contact information according to all the fields or the data that HubSpot will collect for you. So for me, I love it. It's one of the things that we use every day. Any person who wants to meet with me, I send them the calendar link. It collects the information for me, puts it right on my calendar, and then I know that I don't have to worry about reminders or hunting down their phone number or their email address. It's all right there. So I'd highly recommend that you get something like that that helps you with administrative cut down. Now, the other thing when we're talking about scheduling is things like Zoom are great. Zoom has seen a huge increase since this entire quarantine started. As many of you know, they have a free version of Zoom that will allow you to go, I think it's up to about 40 or 45 minutes in a meeting before they'll cut you off. The next level up, I believe, is around $15 a month, and that's for an unlimited amount of time. One of the other things that we use is called Whereby, and Jessica will share just the link to that. Whereby is a platform that doesn't have any login, so I will mention it's not as secure as Zoom, although Zoom has had some security issues. But if you have things that you're talking about that are not necessarily sensitive material, you just need a quick place to meet with people, we use Whereby. And it's great for scheduling because it doesn't take a lot of time. There's no logging in and dialing and codes. It's just a link, and it's like a permanent video chat room. And you can just send the link to people, they click it, it dumps them in there, and you're good to go. So Whereby is really great. It's free for unlimited amount of time, up to 4 people in the chat room. And then the next level up is about 12 people in the chat room. I think it's about $14 or $15 a month as well. But again, we use that internally. We love it because from a scheduling standpoint, it's a lot faster. And we can literally just text, hey, meet me in the video room. And we'll just jump in without having to go through all the administration of scheduling out the meetings. So those are a couple of things that should help with your scheduling. Now what I want to do is sort of expand on reliable systems. And so one of the big questions that I keep getting asked, because I participate in a lot of community groups, so like, boards and volunteerism and, forums with other entrepreneurs. And the big thing that I'm getting asked by a lot of my colleagues and friends that have not worked from home consistently, they all worked in offices and they've been forced to work from home now, is sort of this like, we don't know where everything is. We don't know like how to communicate with one another. We don't know, I have so many emails, I can't even get to them all, and I'm behind and I don't understand, what's happening real time with my clients, with my team, with my partners, with my prospects. And this is where having reliable software and systems really kicks in. And so I will preface this entire section by saying, I understand that it is challenging right now with everything that we have going on to think about slowing down even for an hour to set up a new system. Even before this, when we were all in our normal lives and everything was running, normal pace, although usually it's pretty fast for most people, we had trouble explaining to people about training and systems and how important that was, because it feels like you're slowing down. And I understand that. What I try to challenge you to remember is that if you slow down for even an hour and you create a new system, it allows you to save so much time, an exponential amount of time in the future. And my favorite representation of this is actually not work related. It's a quote I read on Pinterest, because of course, that's all Pinterest is quotes and crockpot recipes, which I'm using a lot of right now, by the way. So much crockpot food. It was, if you don't make time for your health, you will be forced to make time for your illness. I'm going to say that again. If you don't make time for your health, you will be forced to make time for your illness. And that's how I think about it every time I get a little frustrated that I have to slow down and create a new system or organize something or train somebody on something, is I am choosing to make time for the health of my business rather than being forced in a stressful, terrible, overwhelmed way to make time for the illness or the sickness of my business later because I didn't do it now. So let's talk about some of these systems that might be able to help you. I will remind everybody, if you have any questions about any of this, feel free to put it in the chat. Again, Jessica's going to be monitoring that, and at the end, she's going to be feeding me any questions so that we can quickly answer those for you. Couple of things here. So cloud storage is hugely important. If you are not on a consolidated, organized, updated cloud storage system, now is the perfect time. And again, I know you're super excited to get all of your hand printed documents into cloud storage, but this is important. So when I worked at an office, there were a lot of things that never made it into the computer. There were stacks of papers on desks, and there were filing cabinets in the corner. We had an entire closet that nobody talked about that was just like the relic, of decades of, that's what's happened in the business for the past 20 years. And sometimes we'd go in there on slow days and find the coolest stuff. You don't have that option anymore. And if we continue to be quarantined for either another week or 2 months or however long it is, or if we get to go back to work but then have to be quarantined again later, whatever might happen, maybe you decide that your company is more efficient and you can cut costs and overhead by not having an office and letting people work at home. Cloud storage is going to be really important. So ones that we recommend, my whole company is on Google Drive. We use the G Suite of products and services. Our email integrates with our Google Drive, and all of that is very convenient and seamless. It is, I think it's the most affordable one. Microsoft and Outlook, if you're on that program, also have a great OneDrive system that you can use that's very similar in function. And then Dropbox is another one that a lot of my friends that share a lot of media, so videos, photography, higher or larger files, usually share a little bit better via Dropbox, but it is more expensive. They only give you a certain amount of storage for free that usually fills up pretty quickly. So I own a marketing agency. We do lots with video and photo and tons of templates and folders and files. And again, we use everything on Google Drive. That being said, I know a lot of you might be using it already. If you already have it, set aside a half an hour or 45 minutes if you can to try to organize everything into files. So one of the ways that we did this is we created a digital filing index. It is a singular document that says, if you're looking for fill in the blank, you will find it in folder, 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 folder. So it will define what folders are in the digital filing index and what items go in each folder. So to give you an example of this, we have logos for all of our clients. If every time someone needed a client logo, they were shooting me an email asking me where it was, I would need to maybe shoot myself. It happens 20 times a day for 30 different clients, right? So what we did is we said, okay, here is a folder for all of our accounts. Within that, each of our clients has their own folder. And then the structure within each of those is the same. And within each client folder is a folder for logos. So instead of me having to tell people where the logos are every time, when we get a logo, we put it right in that folder for every client. That's a very simplified example, and I'm sure you'll have a lot more. But if you get people to use the same folders and you suggest certain naming templates. So for example, all of our clients have a 3-letter code. So it's kind of an abbreviation of the client's business name. But if you go in and name or save anything for that client, it has to start with the 3-letter client code. What that means is, worst case scenario, if something gets filed in the wrong folder, I can still search for the 3-letter code and find it because it's been named appropriately. So I'd highly recommend you guys look at setting systems around cloud storage and data organization. Another thing, if you don't have already to get, is wonderful and almost mandatory in 2020, is a password protection manager. So I can only see maybe a few of you, but if you raise your hands, if you guys are still writing all your passwords in a Google Sheet or in a Word document. Yeah, oh, look, hands. That's okay. But there are a lot of liabilities and risks with that. So, hypothetically, if that got corrupted or if that got, hacked or whatever it might be, you would be in a lot of trouble. Not only because you might not be able to access those accounts anymore, but also because, if you're in charge of other people's information and it gets out, you are liable for that, which is not a position that you want to be in. So we invested several years ago. We switched over from having all of our passwords in a Google Sheet to having them in LastPass. And Jess will share the link for that. It's just lastpass.com. But there are several others that you can get as well. One of the other big ones is called 1Password. Different pricing, different features, but for the most part, what you're looking for is encryption. So you want to make sure that the passwords are encrypted and safe within their cloud storage, okay? The other thing you want to make sure is that you don't have the same password for everything. I know that that's challenging because it's easier when we can remember it, but things like LastPass will integrate with your browser, and then when you go to log in, they will auto-populate the password for you. So you don't have to remember all your passwords. You can have safer, more complicated passwords and just use the program to let you in, okay? So password protection, very important. The final thing I'll say about that is if you have a team, it's great to put all of the passwords that you need into LastPass. Similar to cloud storage, you can put them into folders. So for example, we have a folder that should only be accessed by people who have, let's say, like a higher level accounting access in my company. So like my CFO and my bookkeeper, myself, Jessica, who is our operations manager, right? So all of those people need certain things like logins to our bank accounts and our credit cards. Those don't have to be shared with our interns or our part-time contractors. They can be put into a special folder and only certain people can have access to them. The other great thing is that, let's say for some reason I'm not working with that accountant anymore, I can simply remove their access and they never actually knew any of my passwords to begin with. So it's pretty simple. Yeah, so password protection manager is a really important thing to get. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is a project management tool. And one of the things that I want to do is sort of show you a little bit of this because it has been insanely helpful for my business. So if you'll give me just a second, guys, I am going to open this up. And I just need to share my screen, so I want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. Let me do this. Okay. And nope. That one. There we go. Oops. Okay. So project management systems, I'm going to let you guys take a peek at this. So basically the project management system is something that allows you to, what's the best way to say this? It allows you to know all of the projects, and it allows you to assign tasks out to different people with different deadlines. So just by show of hands, I'm actually curious, how many people are using a project management system right now? I can only see some of you, but any hands raised on the project management system? Okay. Hang on one second. There we go. So project management systems are something that have been around for years. We actually started with one called Basecamp. And Basecamp did a great job for us. The only thing that made me move over to this one, which is called Asana, A-S-A-N-A, Asana, is that it allows you to create recurring tasks that auto-populate once they've been completed on a schedule. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit about this. This is our actual project management system, Asana, and there are similar features across many platforms for project management. So Basecamp, Trello, Asana, there's one called Teamwork, I believe, as well. So there's a lot of different options that you could research and figure out which one works best for you. We like Asana because of the tactical nature of it. And I'm going to show you some of the perks and benefits of using this as a work from home methodology. So when we log into Asana, the first thing you'll notice is that I can invite a whole bunch of team members. So I have all the pretty faces of my team members here. In Asana, you can have Asana for free, up to 15 people in a workspace with unlimited projects, which is amazing because I've been running an agency for 6 years and we're still using the free version of Asana. So, we also have multiple workspaces. So over here, you'll see that I can, not to be rude to Asana or anything, but we don't need some of the premium features. And so rather than upgrading to the paid version, we just create new workspaces that I can toggle between. And these are all free. So very helpful. You'll also notice that you can color coordinate the projects. So I can tell, for example, here who the account manager is because we've color coordinated it in different colors. We have internal project management here for the company, Piccolo Marketing. And then you'll see down here, we have a bunch of gray ones. We do a lot with templates. So what you're looking at right now is actually a template here in the larger section. There's this really amazing book called Who? The A Method for Hiring. And what we did is took the book and all of its examples on how to hire people the best way with different methodology, and we turned it into a template in the project management system. So I want to expand on this a little bit. This is great if you are doing work processes over and over. So for example, we do social media for clients on a regular basis. It's the same 10 tasks over and over, right? So it's something that, we go in and say, okay, we're going to schedule out or develop 4 weeks worth of social media posts. And then, let's see, hang on one second. Sorry, can you all see that? Jessica mentioned to me that it might be a little small. If you guys will just post in the chat. I don't know how to make it bigger. I'm sorry. Optimize share. Okay. I'm going to just give a couple of more notes here and then I'll let it go because I can't, I'm not sure how to zoom in. Regardless, what you can do is take things like your social media and say, we have the same tasks over and over again every month. We turned it into a template and then let it know, Asana, that it needs to repopulate every 4 weeks. So the first task might be, write social media and repeat every 4 weeks. When somebody is assigned that task, so you can assign it to a person like myself and give it a due date like Monday. Oh, that's April. Give it a due date later this month. And then you can set it to recur every 7 days, every week. I want it weekly on Monday, whatever it might be. And then when I go in and I check this off, after a few seconds, it will auto-populate again with the date for the following week. So you'll see it popped up again for May 4th. This is a phenomenal way to manage recurring projects. And then you'll notice when I clicked on it, it also populated notes. So we were able to put notes over here with links to folders that have certain information or additional documents that might be needed for this task, as well as subtasks to let people know exactly how to complete this task. We also use something called Loom, L-O-O-M, and Loom is a training video or a video recording system. It's a free extension for Google Chrome. And when you activate Loom, it will start recording either your forward-facing camera, your screen, or both. And then what you can do is make quick training videos. We talked about getting yourself set up for success. If you're going through the process of doing something, next time you do it, maybe turn on Loom and narrate the process so that as you're going, you can be making a training video. And when you're done, you can share that training video with anybody at any time, and they can reference it over and over again to try to help you take over that work in the future. So the last thing that I'll mention about project management systems, because they're amazing, is you'll notice over here down at the bottom, there's this section for comments, right? Comments. One of the things that we love about Asana and other project management systems is that it severely cuts down on email communication. So we have a policy that if anything is like, if it's not urgent, if it's not like a client's website or is down or something like that, the communication goes in Asana first. So you would, go in here and say, oh, well, I have a question about copying the scorecard template into the Google Drive. Rather than sending me an email and asking me that question, they will post a comment here and you can actually tag people the way you do on social media. And that's very helpful. So instead of me having an inbox full of random questions and me having to switch hats and gears and figure out what it is, I can just go in and say, nope, what is happening with this task? And I can see a line of communication from the start of the task that will catch me up on where everybody is. This will also minimize the amount of time that you have to ask people where they are on a project. So, hey, where are you on that? You don't have to do that as much anymore. Okay, so I am going to pause my share here and come back over here. Hang on one second. Sorry, guys. There we go. All right. So that's project management systems. We, again, highly recommend that you get one. There are a lot of other things that we look at when we're talking about systems, and we have an additional resource sheet that we're going to share with you all via email. It has links to other software that you might find useful. And the last one that I'll mention here is going to actually transition us into taking care of yourself. And so again, I don't want this to get to, it's not a yoga class. I understand you guys came here for some tactical information. But what I want to remind you all as I close out here, we're going to get you out a little early just because I know everybody's busy. One of the things I want to remind you of is that you've heard this like work-life balance term. Everybody wants to have work-life balance. And personally, I believe that work-life balance does not exist. Because to me, when you have something that's balanced, it is equal on both sides. And I don't want to work half of my life and then have my life the other half of my life. I want to have what I call work-life integration. And so, even if you're just doing the numbers, you've got a 40-hour work week and then the rest of it is your life, right? That's not balanced. You should always have some more life than you have work, hopefully. So what I'm looking at is encouraging you all to have work-life integration. This does get a little bit into how your space at home is orchestrated and how you're again, integrating your day-to-day life into your work. I will give you some examples of how I do this. You guys are welcome to laugh. And I will once again preface this by saying, I don't have children. So Veronica and I had talked about this, and I said, look, I feel very strongly about not pretending to be an expert in something that I have never experienced. So I'm sure there are a lot of resources out there that will help give you some tips and tricks on how to be working from home with children. The number one thing that I've seen and has been told to me is set a schedule for the children as well. And then I laughed at that and was like, sure, that sounds like something that everyone should try to achieve in their lives. So anyway, so for yourself, when you're taking care of yourself, having a clean space to me is very important. And I think that we tend to think about, when we work in an office space, we tend to think about having our home being clean as an ideal, but as chores. Because when we're little, that's what we're taught, that taking care of your home is a chore. Right? And then it's something that you do when you have time, if you have time, we let it go and it's not a big deal. I think that's a lot easier to do when you get to leave your home every day. And you can have a workspace totally separate where you're not looking at the dirty clothes and the dirty dishes. And for me, it's tumbleweeds of dog hair that are like blowing across the hardwood floors like it's the wild, wild west, because it is, right? So what I want to encourage you to do is find a way to integrate that into your work life. An example is that there are a lot of times throughout the day that I am on conference calls or calls with people where I'm not talking, where I'm just listening, or where it's okay for us to be quiet or for me to walk around the house and they wouldn't really know I'm on my Bluetooth or whatever it might be. And I do chores while I'm on the phone. So word to the wise, things that work well for that are folding laundry, or maybe wiping off cabinets or countertops, tidying your desk or tidying your space, your room or your bathroom, putting things away, moving them to other rooms. People can't hear you doing that. Things that do not work well include cleaning the bathroom and flushing the toilets. Yes, because I got mindless one day. Luckily, it was with our account manager, and I was just like mindlessly cleaning the bathroom while we were talking on the phone, and then the toilet flushed, and I was like, oh my God, I promise you I'm not going to the bathroom right now. I'm cleaning my toilet. I think she believed me. It's fine. But Quiet things that you can do while you're on the phone. I personally find that it helps me be, this sounds weird, more engaged in the conversation, because I don't know if you guys have noticed, there's a lot of this happening. I am a hand talker. And so when I'm on the phone and there's nothing to do with my hands, it becomes very distracting for me. There's a lot of leg bouncing and a little bit of ADHD going on. So if I can be folding clothes, I don't even think about it as a chore anymore. It's something that my hands are just doing. And, I just put the clothes away. And by the time I'm done with the call, all the laundry's done, right? So I know it sounds a little silly and unconventional, but it works for me. So I want to share it with you. The other thing I want to encourage you to do is to plan breaks. As I did some research for my original webinar, I asked a lot of people to send in what their questions would be. And I don't think this is unusual. The number one question I got was, I keep not taking a break for an extended amount of hours at a time. So I sit down, I zoom in or zone in on my work, and then there's no distractions. There's no and again, people with kids, please don't laugh at me. There's no office noise. There's no meeting to get up and go to. There's no water cooler or coffee maker to go. It's just me forgetting to eat for the whole day, right? Or to go outside, or to just stand up from the desk and take a little walk around. So for that, I'm going to recommend that you check out the Pomodoro method. If you've not heard of it before, it is the concept of doing a 25-minute focused set of work and then taking about a 5-minute break. And Jessica will share the link with you all in the chat. They have this really convenient little tomato timer. It's super cute. It's a little tomato timer, and you put start work, and it will time out 25 minutes and then sound an alarm when it's time to get up. You click start break, and it'll sound an alarm to let you know it's time to come back. And it does both a short and a long break of 5 to 10 minutes. As we're talking about getting up and taking breaks, though, I want to also encourage you. I know that we're supposed to be in our homes, safe at home. Please go outside. There's a hole outside. It's spring. It's gorgeous out there. I know you can't tell because I'm a ginger, but sunshine is important. I take it in a pill form, little vitamin D every day. But make sure that you go outside. So one of the ways that I'm again integrating this is after my work day, but before dinner, we're going on about a 20 or 30-minute walk, and we're social distancing and staying away from people. But I take the dogs for a walk because it reminds me that, everything's okay. And your body needs that energy just to take care of itself and feel better. The other thing that you can do if you have a porch or a deck, or if you could just open up a few windows, is get that outside while you're working. There were a few days last week where it was gorgeous outside, and we just took a couple of chairs out there and put a little pop-up table on the deck. I don't even have deck furniture, but I set it out there and we just worked on laptops on the deck. Because it's a new environment. So, having your set desk space is nice, but, being able to mix it up a little bit is going to keep your brain engaged as well. So those are all the tips that I have for you today. Just, again, practical things as you're working from home. I hope that some of these you can take and implement right away. Some of them I know you're going to have to take and look over and think about, process a little bit and work on. But again, it's worth it. I will challenge you, and this is something that I didn't have a ton of time for here because it was a much longer conversation, but communicating right now with your team and with your clients and prospects and strategic partners, communication is what I'm going to leave you with. It's hugely important. So without getting into a ton of details, please remember to communicate regularly and do it with authenticity. So right now, as leaders, as people who are, either owning businesses, we're in leadership positions in our businesses, we're, leaders in the community, it's hard to have people look to you in moments of complete unknown crisis. When's the last time we had a pandemic? 100 years ago. So I don't think anyone on the, unless there's the savviest 100-year-old person on this phone call, this webinar, none of us were alive the last time we had this, kind of global pandemic. No one has the answers. No one knows what's going to happen. And while we have an idea and we can plan ahead, and planning is great, have plans and plan, for your plans and your backup plans, it's awesome. It's okay to not know the answers. And this is a phenomenal time to communicate and lead with authenticity and to tell people, look, I don't have all the answers, but here's what I know, and here are the plans that we have to move forward. Try to communicate from a proactive stance. So rather than waiting for people that are relying on you to come to you and go, hey, I don't have that thing. I don't know what's going on. What are we doing about X, Y, or Z? Just be proactive in telling people what's happening. That's why you have 300 emails that are all telling you what every company in the world is doing for COVID. Because what they know is it's better to give you information that they have now than wait for everybody to be panicking and coming to them, you know, in that state of overwhelm. So if you can set up regular communication with your team members, with your clients, with your prospects, with your partners, whatever it might be, you know, having regular check-ins, even if it's just to be human, guys, just be human. Just, hey, how are you doing? No, really, how are you doing? Not everything has to have a work agenda right now. You know, we kind of stopped selling for a few weeks because we're like, how tacky is it to call somebody and be like, hey, we know there's a pandemic immediately after a tornado. Did you want to sign that contract right now? Or, oh no, okay, no, that's terrible. But we have called everybody to check in on them to see how they're doing because we genuinely care how they're doing, right? Like business will come when it comes, but like just be human and authentic, and that's okay right now. So that's all I have. I hope that that's helpful. Again, any questions that you have, Jessica is going to sort of queue up to me because I see the chat has been very active. So Jessica, if you want to queue up any questions, I'm going to open you up in the other window here. Yeah, we'll start answering some of those. And again, thank you everybody. Veronica's going to get on after I'm done with questions with a couple of housekeeping items. And I will say one last thing. If you want us to email you, I think that we have the email list, but again, a little bit new to this technology. So I'm going to give the handout to Veronica to hopefully go out through there. If you want us to email it to you, please just again, plans on plans, put your email in the chat. And then that way we know we have it and that we got everybody who wants to receive the follow-up information. Okay, so Jessica said one of the main questions or recurring questions was around capabilities with Asana and compatibility with Excel files. So let me answer that. So Asana has a lot of integrations. It will integrate with your email, meaning you can have an email and just send it into Asana. And it will automatically turn it into a task for you. So you tell it what project to go into. And we actually have one of our operations managers, Brendan. Part of his job every day is to go in and take everything that's been emailed into Asana and assign it out to a human being with a deadline. That's how often we use it. It's phenomenal. So like, I'll give you an example. An invoice comes in that needs to be paid. I don't have to do anything but send it, email it. I hit email forward, Asana. And I've saved Asana as a contact in my Google, and it just goes right into Asana. And when Brendan gets it, he sees it's an invoice and he goes, oh, assigns it to our bookkeeper and gives it a due date. So he'll move it into whatever project. We have a lot of projects, as you guys saw, for clarity, but he moves it around. So when you're talking about Excel files or specific documents, Asana does also integrate with Google Drive. So it allows you to make attachments or connections. It has, when I say the attachment feature, you can pretty much attach any kind of file. So if you have a project that's like, hey, I need you to review the social media images that were created by our graphic designer, you literally can just attach those right in there or just paste a Google folder link and then they can just click right to it. So it has a ton of integration around attachments and working with your email and that kind of thing. It's a phenomenal service. I will not speak to the integrations that might happen with other platforms like Basecamp or Trello or Teamwork. I just haven't worked with them enough to know. But again, it's one of the reasons that we love Asana is because we know it has those. So a next question, how do we use Loom videos in our tasks? Great question. So what you do with Loom is you go into the little extension and you click it and you tell it where to record and when, whether it be their screen or your face or both. And as soon as you hit done with the video, there's a little check mark, it will begin to process it and Loom will host it. There's a certain amount of storage for free, which is great, but it will host it on its own little like video storage vault. it will give you a link to that video. So in Asana, if you're saying, again, use the content calendar to generate social media posts for this client for the next 4 weeks. We have a training video on that. What we do is go into the task and we just click, or we type in training video hyphen, and we just paste the link for that training video. So when they open up the task, they can just click the link in a new tab. It opens up the Loom video and they can watch it as many times as they need to. Yep. Loom is great. Jess, if there's any other questions, feel free to cue them in here. Loom is great for not only training videos. I will also mention I use it a lot for what we call explainer videos. So this is something that was actually requested by the team. I did not think to do this. They told me that they love videos so much that they would prefer me give them instruction in video format than to try to give them a bullet point or an email. So I love it because it's a lot faster than having to sit down and construct an email and like bullet point and format it and cut things out and whatever. What they said is that when I explain something to them and the why we're doing it and the context around it, in addition to the task, it is easier for them to take it and run with it than if I just go, please do this thing. Because inevitably I miss something that they need to understand or know in order to get the job done. And what we end up with is emails or communications back and forth. So I'll open up Loom. I'll give you an example. So I write for Forbes, the online business magazine, right? Forbes. So they have different questions that you can answer. In addition to writing articles, I can also answer like expert questions that they'll feature in their collaboration articles. And it is very challenging for me to sit down and just like succinctly answer all of these things, because finding time to stay focused enough to answer a dozen questions every week is a challenge. So instead, what I do is I open up Loom and I put the forward-facing camera and I'll read off the questions and then I'll just answer them to the camera. My team takes it, transcribes it, polishes up all the ums and the hus and the maybes, right? And then they have the answers and then they just submit it to Forbes for me. So, you know, there are ways that you can communicate with your team that don't, what's the best way to say this? Like, that don't have to be training. It can be just you communicating with your team. And right now, face-to-face contact and like human emotion and micro expressions and body language is something that we're missing a lot of. So use video. You can email it to them. Hey, I hope you're having a great morning. I wanted to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. On our call later today, let's talk about that. Done. Send. You know, it's just a little bit nicer. So Loom is a great free tool. Can you say more about the different users she showed in the top right hand? What was, it was like a workaround option. Yeah. So I am a small business owner. I've had the business for 6 years and we are still using a lot of things for free because small business owners. So here's what I'll say. In Asana, having a free Asana, they call it a workspace. So if you go in and start Asana as a workspace, you can do so for free. And then essentially, if you reach the 15-person limit, you can have unlimited projects. If you have more than 15 people that you need to invite into something, you can use a different email address to go back to asana.com and register a new workspace. So my main workspace is registered under my email, like Anna-Vija at piccolomarketing.com. But then when we needed another one, we used, I think it was like hello@piccolomarketing.com. And then we used like info@piccolomarketing.com. And then we use Jessica@piccolomarketing.com. So we have like 6 of them. And when you invite people into them, you notice in the top right, you just toggle between workspaces. So it'll let you know, there's new stuff in this one. There's new messages or notifications or tasks by a little dot. It just like, hey, there's new notifications here. And you can just see when you glance through. By practice, though, we encourage everyone to check each Asana workspace every day. So it's like, hey, if you're in 2 or 3 of these, just go in at the top of the day and check each one to make sure they're clean. But it's still free. Yay, free. Yes, different rooms, how do we use and invite others? So Asana has great tutorials for that. When you go into the different workspaces, you would just invite people into your workspace and you just type in their email address. You want to make sure you're using the same one though, so that they can toggle. So for example, like you don't want to use, like in workspace 1, you don't want to invite Bob using his work email, and in workspace 2, invite him using his personal, because then he won't be able to toggle between them without logging in and out. So just make sure you're using like the same work email for all of the workspaces. But the invitation process and the management is very simple. Their help section and tutorials are great for that. You can create additional rooms under your own email. You don't have to have a different, accounts. Thank you, Jessica. Jessica is correcting me and then telling me that apparently you can actually have multiple workspaces under your own account, which is even better. So you don't have to catfish yourself and create a whole bunch of different identities. There's like one workspace where you have a mustache and one where you have a bowler cap. No, apparently you could just do it with your one email. So Jessica and Brendan are actually the main proprietors of our Asana. So I got it set up many years ago, and then they took over and just really rolled with it, which was great. So yes, if we don't have any other questions, just let me know. If we do, I'm happy to answer them. And otherwise, I'm going to turn this over to Veronica and let her finish up the meeting so we can finish on time. There's little dots. I want to make sure. No additional questions. Okay. If you guys have additional questions, I'm going to stick around for a minute. Feel free to post them over here. Reminder, please post your email just to make sure that you're, on the registration and that we got you, sent the additional information. Other than that, thank you all so much for having me today. I hope this has been helpful. And the last thing that we are going to post, Jessica's going to share with you in the chat, is a survey link. Jess, if you'll post it a couple of times just to make sure everybody sees it. The survey is just, I plan on doing a few more webinars, and I love to get feedback on how these things went. So as somebody who does public speaking, and webinars are still a little new to me, I'd love to get your feedback and also your suggestions on other topics you might be interested in, just so that we can continue to build and provide value to our audience. So thank you, everybody. Veronica, if you want to come in and take over the rest of the show, I will throw up your slide here for you.